Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We'll be reacting to this video by Daryl Talks Games about how games that use sympathy do terrify you. Now this is a channel that I enjoy immensely. They do video game essays and most of my knowledge about video games comes from this channel. So if you guys haven't heard about it before or haven't watched any of his videos, I highly recommend checking them out. The link to the original video is always at the top of the description, so make sure to go and show your support. And of course, watch the OG before coming back to watch this reaction, because I feel like I would have something, well, a lot to say, hopefully, and create some sort of discussion because of the thumbnail of this video that shows NieR Replicant, which is a game that really stuck with me ever since I played it. We did stream that here live on the channel, however, that was kind of back when I had a dinky 1050 Ti and it was doing its best, but we did have to play the entire game in the lowest possible graphic setting, so the mileage on the entertainment value there will vary. You thought you could run from me? Oh shit! Oh fuck! You bitch! Oh shit! Oh no! Run! Fucking run! What the fuck? There's something wrong with that sheep! But regardless, I'm really looking forward to learning some new things from this video, as well as bringing up some points that we can discuss. So without further ado, let's just get right into this. Roger that. Spooky aliens.
So there's this part in the film No One Will Save You where Brynn is being chased by an alien in her home. It tackles her, she bites it to escape, spits out its space goo, Ghost throws pots of boiling water at it. The whole thing is stressful as hell. But at some point during all of this, the alien gently creeps around the corner and just does this.
What?
And it stays that way as Brynn confusedly backs away.
Also, nobody tell ꌗꌵ about this movie. She will immediately watch it. And for those of you who don't know, ꌗꌵ is extremely into aliens for whatever reason.
Now, the film, like most alien horror flicks, has plenty of disturbing and cosmically unsettling parts, but this quiet pose, this...
What was that Monogatari head tilt?
This pause in the action that you could almost read as an attempt at communication for some reason is the moment that bothered me the most. What is it doing? Why isn't it attacking anymore? And furthermore, is that a hint of sorrow, I feel? Sympathy for this intruder? Because it's one form of horror to be attacked by a monster, but it's another form entirely to realize that you are the monster.
Oh, I see.
Eventually...
Well, I mean, now I know where we're going with bringing up NieR Replicant in this. Oh boy. I mean, if you guys are watching this and haven't played NieR Replicant and you do plan to play that in the future, I would highly recommend just leaving the video and going to do that first. It is a game that you want to experience with absolutely no spoilers whatsoever. And I played that before I played Automata, and I actually really enjoyed the order that I played it in. Which I think most people do it the opposite way, because Automata was kind of the thing that brought it to everybody's attention, or the NieR series, rather. But that first time you play it without any spoilers and not knowing anything is the most special, and you'll never get that back ever again. So, yes, please go and do that.
No One Will Save You does kind of allude to what this little guy is doing here, but that initial viewing of this scene was the most profound part of the film to me. And there are quite a few other instances like it where it's unclear exactly why the aliens are paying Brynn a visit. Viewing this movie stirred up a particular palette of emotions that I've only felt a few times before consuming fiction, which is what I'm here to talk about today.
Man, that was such a sad battle.
This language barrier trope is a tool that can be used to create some of the most haunting moments you can imagine.
Oh, wait.
As well.
That is from one of the newer animes, right? I forget what it's called, like Heavenly Delusion or something like that. I didn't watch it personally. I did hear good things about it, but yeah, just haven't had the time.
As some of the most magnificent. So if you'll indulge me and let me knock out this sponsor read real quick, we'll dive right in. I don't like the cold. It's bitter, it makes my fingers and ears hurt. So naturally, when I leave the house, I don't go out in just my boxers. That would be absurd. But
well, thankfully, I don't live in a cold environment. I would not survive in a cold environment.
if you've been surfing the web without a VPN, that's essentially what you're doing. With Atlas VPN, the absolute best VPN deal on the market, you can cloak yourself online with a coat to keep all of that cold out, or, in this metaphor, ads, malware, trackers, malicious links. Atlas protects you from all of these things on all of your devices with a single subscription, and it has that magical ability to unlock the full library of your favorite streaming services. If a show is only available in Japan, well, guess where you can be with the click of a button, my friend. This also really helps if you're into sports like me and you can't watch an out-of-market game. Just put yourself in the right market and boom, there's Josh Allen. And when I say it's the best deal on the market, I mean it. Right now you can get the big deal, Atlas VPN Premium, for only $1.70 per month with 6 months extra. That even includes a 30-day money-back guarantee, so why not give it a try? Just click the link in the description or use the QR code on screen. This is a limited time offer, so don't miss out. Once again, snag Atlas VPN for just $1.70 per month plus 6 months extra by using the link below before the big deal expires. Thanks again to Atlas VPN for the sponsor. Now back to the show. Do you remember that big fish in Wind Waker that spoke Hylian?
Okay, I did play a little bit of Wind Waker, but I did not finish the game, so this is new to me. Twilight Princess is still the best Zelda game, though. I will die on this hill.
That scene where you just had to kind of sit awkwardly while the King of Red Lions had a grown-up talk with him. It is a weirdly enchanting scene in some ways. You get the impression that you're stumbling upon a saga that spans so far back that there are dead languages involved. You try to piece together what is being said based on context clues from the portions of this conversation you can read. In his responses, the king seems to allude to some deeper truth that Link is not privy to. And there are a few moments like this throughout this game that for years remained a mystery to me since I played this back in middle school. But as it turns out, if you do a New Game Plus, all of these scenes are translated in that second playthrough.
Oh my. I see. I didn't realize that was a thing. Like, when did Wind Waker come out? Because this is something that also happened when you play Replicant. I think it's something that also happens at Automata as well. But the messages that get translated in Replicant kind of stuck with me much more. And it's really a shame that so many people played the game. And for one reason or another, despite it being pretty obvious, apparently never played it again, even though there are like so many signs and a literal message saying to do so. But yeah, the experience is not complete on the first playthrough, and you're likely going to be extremely confused. You got to play through it again, and you know, you go through the same areas, you fight some of the same enemies, but oh boy, it is a extremely different experience once all of your actions are put into perspective. Which we'll get to later on in this video, just judging from the chapters.
You find out that the King of Red Lions was taking a chance on Link since he isn't the hero of time. We're told that he had a hunch all along about Tetra's royal bloodline. It's kind of a cool revelation to know that the pieces were already in motion this early in the game, but the scenes with these translations don't drastically recontextualize the story or change how you view your ultimate goal within it. Ganon is still bad. Link is still going to be the hero. You've essentially just unlocked some flavor text. But what if an enemy spoke highly? What if you had to fight it without fully understanding it? What do you think it would have to say, and do you think that would affect how you view that fight on a second playthrough?
Oh, yeah. just noticed, wanted to comment on it. Just the slow fade in of the NieR music. Oh, here we go.
This is a scenario that NieR Replicant takes full advantage of.
Roger that.
In your first run of the game, you need to find these 5 fragments, and to do that, you'll have to slay quite a few shades, which are, at this point, faceless bad guys that are after your sister. It's a bit
I'm not gonna spoil it here, but I'm pretty sure like the very first or the second stream of NieR Replicant I ever did, I immediately called out what these shades were. It was just some random theory that I threw out there, but yeah. Turns out I hit the nail on the head.
Odd that sometimes they drop non-video gamey items like an old school book.
Exactly. When it dropped that, I'm like, wait a minute. Something's up here. And yeah.
On we go. You'll fight an armed statue guarding the first fragment, a robot partnering with a shade in this factory, bloodthirsty wolf shades, a colossal shade taking the form of a girl at the site of a shipwreck. And each encounter on the first playthrough is almost completely black and white. They're just obstacles in the way of saving your sister and nothing more. You slay the statue, scrap the robot, and bludgeon the girl. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice innocent little details in each fight that invite doubt into your subconscious. Kaine's conflict in the factory that just sort of goes
yes. Yeah, that's right. On your first playthrough, Kaine is just, it's almost like she's just talking to herself. Like, what does she say? She's just randomly spouting shit. But no, not at all. Because that's the thing with Kaine's character. I mean, I've played the game before, so I'm going to go full spoiler mode here. Apologies to anybody who hasn't played the game yet, but I did say that you should probably go play it first. Kaine understands the shades, but you, playing as NieR, do not on your first playthrough. So all the times where Kaine kind of goes like mad and starts talking to herself, it's not really her talking to herself. She's just kind of talking to the shades and denying them in many different ways. Once that information clicks on your like second playthrough, it really, really changes the game.
unacknowledged.
Oh, damn it. That's a shade. It's a shade!
Yeah.
The damage just below the eyes of the statue that is almost reminiscent of tears. The way the girl stops her onslaught at the sight of the male is disgusting.
This is, this hurts so much. And then when you have to pull the trigger in that last moment, it's just, why? And seeing her reach for the sky and being like, I wish I was human. And the irony of the situation being that she's actually the most human out of all of us. Like, man, dude, the writing on these games is incredible. I'm so glad that I played them.
These little moments play the same role as the Hylian text in Wind Waker because they plant the idea that there is more to the story here. But by placing the uncertainty in the context of an enemy that we are tasked with killing, we find ourselves facing the same conflict Bren may have when the aliens seem to try and communicate with her. We're forced to ask ourselves if we are wrong for choosing to respond with aggression. We find ourselves in that language barrier-induced uncanny valley of seeking to understand versus seeking to survive. If seeing this alien take this pose was creepy to you when I first showed it earlier, that's probably because it oozes ambiguity. The chase scene is fairly obvious. If you're Bryn, the message here is evident. She is being attacked. But at this moment, the message is far from clear. What does this behavior mean?
We don't understand.
A 2016 article on the nature of creepiness tested people's responses to odd behavior from a stranger. Things like the stranger having pale skin, dressing oddly, licking their lips, having a peculiar smile, or laughing at unpredictable times. The researchers' conclusion from the results of this study was that the perception of creepiness is a response to the ambiguity of threat. All of these are features that are hard to get a read on. Our minds don't know what to do with them.
Oh, God. I loved watching Courage the Cowardly Dog. I don't remember that particular episode, but that dude looks really creepy.
Because while this is clearly a threat and you should be running away, there is no protocol for a stranger doing this.
What do you do?
And it calls to question every previous action. What if this thing is chasing her because it's trying to protect her from a larger threat? What if there is a disagreement among the aliens on what to do with her, and this one is trying to get to her before its asshole friends do? What if this is its attempt at calling a truce? There's no way it would know what a white flag meant, after all. What is the proper response here? If it were you, would you do the pose back? Would that be rude? A gesture is simple.
Oh man, that's great.
As pointing at someone is offensive in some cultures. On this planet, we can't even begin to understand what its cultural norms are or what its body language means, let alone its spoken one, which is what makes this scenario so unnerving, especially if it's just trying to help. And this whole idea of the big scary thing just being misunderstood when it's actually benevolent is an idea we've seen before, right? In Home Alone, the creepy old bird lady and the snow shovel guy are actually just scary to Kevin because he's a kid and hasn't had many interactions with adults outside of his family. In reality, they're both largely sweet and kind once he tries talking to them. The Iron Giant is seen as a massive threat to the military, but Hogarth takes the time to befriend the giant and both discovers that it is gentle and teaches it that it can be more than just a gun.
Guns kill. And you don't have to be a gun.
The Pokedex entry for Absol in Ruby and Sapphire says that when it appears before people, a natural disaster always follows. Because of this, it's known as the Disaster Pokemon. But later in the Diamond and Pearl entry, it's clarified that Absol simply senses these things and appears before people to warn them of the impending danger.
And then that false connection came to be. Dang, dude. But that's also kind of a part of humans as a whole. Like, we attempt to make connections to things that aren't really connected with each other in order to have a greater sense of control over the world around us. Because when we feel like we're out of control, then, well, yeah, it's not a state that anybody really wants to be in. However, the reality is that there's very few things that we can control. So while it's unfair to assign that to this Pokemon, that is just what people will do. It's unfortunate, but it's also within our nature.
Hell, even in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, the gang are initially frightened by the zombies. But of course, it turns out the zombies were actually trying to warn them all along about the real threat, the werecats.
The vampires? The werecats. Oh.
That movie also had this song in it.
And it's terror time again. They've got you running.
That's irrelevant to this video, but someone here needed to unlock that memory. So you see this trope all around. And it's easy to start to feel like the premise is pretty surface level. Okay, the scary stuff isn't always evil, sometimes it's just misunderstood. Thank you for the lesson, Undertale. We shouldn't always just start shooting. The more I researched for this video, I began to see this everywhere. In the second episode of Heavenly Delusion, this lady stops the main characters from killing this man-eater because she is convinced that it is actually her son, because it ate her son.
Yuto went inside of it, and then it became Yuto!
And ever since, she's seen how it acts differently around her. It has protected her, she claims. Our heroes are reluctant, but I mean, can see where this is going. It's just another case of the language barrier being used to reveal that the evil thing is actually just misunderstood.
Until it's,
And it seems like these that, to me, keep this trope from ever really feeling played out, because you don't know, you can't know what someone's intentions truly are if you don't understand them.
Exactly.
This scenario is almost always creepy because for every time a monster is actually benevolent, there is another where it uses that ambiguity.
Oh, yeah. And the demons in Freerun, where they only use language in order to convince others that they're on their side in order to drop their guard and eat them. So ultimately, you get put in a situation where better safe than sorry. And so violence is pretty much the most simple answer to that. It's like, why would you risk attempting to understand something if the attempt to understand said thing would just kill you? Is there any solution to that? I don't believe there is. Maybe you just have to accept that sometimes you mess up and you do something that you really shouldn't have, and you were kind of the monster. that you actively chose to do something incredibly horrific that you thought you never could.
As a diversion. The nervous uncertainty of these situations is what makes them so compelling to watch. The movie Arrival harnesses that uncertainty to create a plot that is genuinely haunting to try and imagine yourself in. UFOs have suddenly been spotted around the world, but they aren't attacking or trying to farm the Earth's resources.
Oh! Yeah, I've only heard good things about this game. I should play it someday. But I suppose we're showing it because it has a similar plotline. I did watch Arrival when it came out. It was certainly a movie. I don't really remember enjoying it very much because I thought it was just super duper slow. But I could see what they were going for. It just wasn't really my cup of tea.
They're just kind of parked on our doorstep.
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Which,
it's not really doing anything.
Questions. Why are they here? What do they want? Are they dangerous? Are we safe? And the movie builds tension by forcing the world to just sit with these questions. It refuses to ease the fear with answers right away. Dr. Louise Banks and a team put together by the military try to understand the aliens' language and teach them our own in an attempt to peacefully communicate with them. But naturally, suspicion clouds the world's judgment. It's one form of terror for the aliens to show up and just start attacking, but once again, it's another form entirely to endure months of them just silence, not doing anything, months of no answers, months of unease, and living on the razor-sharp edge of mutually assured destruction if the negotiations with them go south. Especially when you consider how much can get lost in translation from sentence structure to multiple meanings to cultural context.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it will be nigh impossible to even begin to understand each other, considering how different we are. Like, even with the most state-of-the-art technology, can you even attempt to come up with a way that is accurate to their way of communication? And you know, it might not just be like us being afraid of them. They might also be afraid of us and not understand us, and they might decide to choose violence as their first option instead. Although I suppose that would depend on how they are as a species, which we might not even be able to understand in the first place as well. There's just so much that goes into this that you never really think about until you sit back and just attempt to figure out a way to talk. Oh boy. Communication is just such an important skill, and I mean, even though people speak the same language, it's not like we are that great at communication with each other either.
First, we need to make sure that they understand what a question is. We need to clarify the difference between a specific you and a collective you. And purpose requires an understanding of intent. And biggest of all, we need to have enough vocabulary with them that we understand their answer.
One misinterpreted or misused word from either party in this conversation could result in a hasty,
disaster.
Terrified, better safe than sorry pulling of the trigger. I won't spoil it, but there is a scene late in this movie where one party uses a word that, let's just say, carries multiple meanings and causes all hell to break loose.
重要だったりして作れないというのが実情なんですね。でそうした隠された制約というか見えない壁の中の一つにですね、やんなきゃいけないことの中に、僕ら殺すゲームを作ることを求められるんです。
I'm assuming this is one of the interviews with Yoko
This is the
Taro.
voice of Yoko Taro, the creator of Drakengard, NieR Automata, NieR Replicant. He's an interesting person. He doesn't show his face in interviews because
He's a very eccentric individual, let's say that. Now, I only know a bit about the Drakengard games. I think in the very first one, there's literally like a number that keeps account of how many enemies that you kill. And, just guessing from Yoko Taro's style, that number is going to be used against you at the end of the game.
As in his words, when you find out that a person writing pornographic novels is an older gentleman, you kind of lose that excitement. Some people might lose that kind of expectation or excitement towards a game if they find out who's actually behind it. He's one of a kind, and we must protect him at all costs. But in this interview, he explains that the act of killing in video games used to strike him as strange. It's one of the most common acts you do, and even when you aren't slaying foes, be it like a sports game or a fighting game, you're still exerting your dominance over someone, gaining advantage over someone. In most cases, he claims, the consumer prefers this experience, himself included. But things like racking up a kill count is so often framed as an achievement, when outside of video games, that makes you
would be a crime.
A serial killer. You'd have to be insane to be proud of that.
Oh my god, another plane has just hit.
And there it is. Now this is something that I was told by chat while I was streaming this game, that the concepts here were by Yoko Taro based on the events of the Twin Towers, which is it's certainly one hell of a thing to base your game off of, but well, he took that risk and it really paid off. It's just genuinely such a good game that I believe everybody should play at one point in their life.
NieRってゲームを作ったんですけれど、その頃には911とかイラク戦争とか経て、どんどん世の中がテロとかの情報がいっぱい日本にも入ってきて、でその時にちょっと考えが変わりまして、人間は自分が正しいと思ってれば狂ってなくても人を殺せるっていうことをちょっとなんか世の中から感じたんですね。
And that's exactly what the first playthrough of NieR leads you to believe.
Because you believe that you're doing the right thing, that you commit all these horrific actions against people that you don't understand. Because to you, you're saving the world. But oh boy, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. Man. I genuinely wish that I could erase my memories and replay this game again. Like, it didn't really hit me while I was playing the game, because I guess for me, it's like you're in the middle of an action video game, you're trying to survive, and there's like millions of bullets flying at you. So you're just kind of like super pumped and ready to go and ready to fight. But it's only after the fact that you sit with yourself and think about what you just did that it finally hits you. Now, what the hell, man? Like, what am I?
That you are right for all of the killing it takes to save your sister. When you pull the curtain back on your second playthrough of the game, however, you can hear the echoes of Yoko's philosophy. You don't get interesting flavor text translated, you receive dialogue that completely recontextualizes the events of the game and your hand in them.
Yeah. Then we'll be able to become a family.
Humanizes the faceless enemies you plow through in the first. The statue has a name now. He has found peace and companionship with the Shades. They've saved him. He wants to spend the rest of his life with...
And then you came along. And you ruined everything.
A young Shade named Khalil is left alone after his mother sacrifices herself to save him. Heartbroken, he finds solace.
Oh, god damn it. Oh, why am I such a crybaby? Oh, this is bringing up so many memories. Give me a second. Okay, so just the way that the game is presented, as well as the dialogue writing for the characters, and even some of the reading portions, I remember reading them and it just bringing me to tears. It's just that well written. You really can feel the emotion coming from them, even though they might not speak like a full language that you can understand, but it's still there. And it just, it really brings into perspective like what you've done, the weight of your actions, that they're not mindless monsters, that you've committed acts of atrocity, and there's really no way to to take that back. You can justify it that it was all for your sister this entire time, but was it really? That in doing so you've actively doomed mankind forever? Will never recover from this because you wanted to save your sister.
In the company of a robot that has also lost its creator. Khalil is thrilled.
They've been able
He
to
calls him
find
Beepy.
family
Two
with
of
each
them
other.
Spend all of their days together.
And Kaine hears all of this during your first playthrough. Yeah.
Louise is a lost girl living in an abandoned shipwreck. She can't talk, she can't leave the ship, but despite this, a postman finds her and is kind to her. He brings her food, gives her a bow, teaches her how to write.
And then this. I must say that the editing during these sections is also quite masterful. Like, props to you, man. Just the the dialogue mixed with the hard cuts to those moments of realization where everything just goes to shit. Oh, man.
NieR Replicant's subsequent playthroughs use translations to go beyond a simple, "Oh, that's cool," and instead completely verify and expound upon every sneaking suspicion we have about our time killing these shades. It's stomach-turning to all at once realize just how much pain you've caused simply because you didn't know what you were doing was wrong, because you couldn't understand what your foes were saying, because you didn't see the full picture, because you thought you were right. Unlike Undertale, there is no pacifist route in Replicant. To get the new endings, you have to play this portion of the game again without really changing anything you do. And I think that's significant. You watch as NieR and the gang go through the same motions, knowing full well after you finish off one foe that only more despair and suffering awaits you.
Well, you as the player know this, but NieR does not. To NieR, he genuinely believes that he is defeating foes in order to take back his sister from the Shadow Lord, which I remember making comments about that, and it's still kind of a meme. That, well, a personal meme, really. That the Shadow Lord should really get a new PR team, because you don't name yourself the Shadow Lord, or if you're actually the good guy. But, it is what it is. This game can really make you question what you believe in, which I think is a good thing. We should always be, I guess, critical of what we're going to do and the effects that it would have on others. Well, I don't know if critical is the correct word there, but to be more thoughtful about our own actions and try to see things from many different perspectives. However, I also realize that that isn't always possible. But you know, in an ideal world, unfortunately, we don't live in one.
You don't just get these scenes for free. You have to cause the anguish in real time. To keep going, you must feel the weight of every swing of the sword, the sting of every heart-gouging spell as you're force-fed this new, tragic perspective. I think it's worth noting as well that these characters have found peace before you arrive because they are finally understood. Someone has come along that has chosen to see them as a friend instead of a threat. Khalil has only ever known the outside world to be malicious, but through Beepy, he has found someone to relate to, someone who actively seeks to know him. Because she is a shade, Louise cannot leave the ship and enter the sunlight, nor can she speak, but despite this, the postman still treats her like a normal girl and even tries to teach her how to write and sing. The underlying theme between these stories is that happiness is found when we try to understand one another, that communication, even when it seems impossible, is the path to peace. That is the subtle whisper in NieR Replicant that I think Yoko Taro is really pointing our attention to. It's not just that a lack of understanding can lead to agony, is that in reaching it, we find fulfillment.
Which is a theme that's also resonated within the party that you have as well. With ꌗꌗ being extremely misunderstood by the people of her village. And the only person that really grounded her was her grandmother. And poor Emil, just a sweet little boy turned into what we know him as today. Someone extremely misunderstood and was only accepted by us.
And I don't think there's a better game to illustrate this point than The Last Guardian.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about this game, and I don't really plan to play it at any point. So I think I'll just continue, but I have only heard good things about it.
The Last Guardian is one of those games where the goal is not to kill. It's not even to gain advantage over someone. The point is, from the very beginning, to seek to understand another living being, in this case, Trico. The first thing he does when you wake up at the beginning is snarl at you, which is pretty unambiguous by the way, but you have no weapon. There is no attack button. What you do have, however, is the ability to pull out the spear stuck in his leg. The wisdom and size and strength to hunt down food for him. After all, you're stuck down here, but so is he. Maybe with a little bit of cooperation, you can make it out together. Now, to get it out of the way, yes, there are parts of this game that are broken. This is not where Daryl sits you down and says that The Last Guardian is a perfect game or even a fully functioning game, because boy, there are some issues with it. I'm also not going to tell you that those issues are the point and that if you hated it, you just don't get it, because this adds nothing to the experience except for the sound of me bashing my head into my desk. But among those clunky controls, tedious puzzle design, and obnoxious control reminders that you can't turn off for some reason, there are a few diamonds in the rough, some risky yet inspired design choices that get lost in the fold. One of the
Gotcha. It's always such a tragedy when a fantastic narrative is kind of stuck behind like broken game mechanics. Like, what can you really do about that? I guess give the devs more time, more of a budget, but also we know in the gaming industry that that's not always possible. So sometimes you just gotta overlook some things in order to see the grander picture, or to appreciate, or just appreciate the things that it does well without being soured by the things that it does not. I've always found that a difficult balance to achieve, because it's really hard to just ignore it, or rather than ignore, just not let it sour the things that are good about a series. Because when you do that, what you basically just do is you rob yourself of enjoyment, which doesn't really achieve anything, unless if you're just looking to be depressed. I think I've still got a ways to go in order to reach that kind of state, or a state of mind, I suppose. But I feel like once I do, then life would just be kind of a joy. Like, everything's cool.
The bigger complaints that people have about this game is that Trico won't just do what you ask him to do. It takes forever for him to finally jump or lift the gate or just fucking turn around. We have to go this way. In this interview with Stack, when asked about Trico's AI, the game's director Fumito Ueda points out that if they made Trico just obey like clockwork, it would have reduced him to just a simple game mechanic. After all, your dog doesn't always come when you call, your cat does not always listen when you tell it to get off the counter. Mr. Ueda goes on to say that the one thing he wanted players to feel as they play is that Trico is a real living being. Stages, characters, motions are all to serve that illusion.
That makes a lot of sense. It is going to be frustrating as a game mechanic, but like, that's a great point. Just being like a point and click kind of thing and telling it to do whatever would just make the entire purpose of the game a little bit lackluster, or go against the narrative that they're trying to tell here. It's certainly something that you can't always achieve, but in the perfect scenario, you would want your narrative to match with the game mechanics in a way that players find to be enjoyable. which, yeah, not everybody's going to enjoy it. Because another example of this, I believe, is the weapon in breaking thing in Breath of the Wild. Like, that was a system that they came up with in order to match the narrative of a world that was kind of broken, long gone. You have to scavenge for things around the world in order to defeat your foes with. But obviously, for a lot of people, that was just a massive turn off because it was like, bro, I only use this weapon for like a few swings and it's already broken. Like, you can't even get attached to anything. So I guess in a way, there's always some sort of sacrifice that needs to be made. And whether you want to make it just a fun game or whether you want to tell a story. But if you guys have any examples of like game mechanics that perfectly fit with the narrative storytelling, then please do let me know in the comments. I would be quite curious to know. As I haven't played that many games. I think I said this at the start of the video, but yeah, I've mostly just learned about video games from video game essays.
And in many ways, I think he succeeded in that endeavor. There are parts of this game that felt as infuriating as trying to coordinate a climb up several towers with an actual giant griffin cat thing. Not because of these parts, but because of parts like this. There was this one point as I'm climbing this spire, right? It's clear that I had to go this way. It's there where back where we came from. Literally nowhere else to go. And Trico was just obsessed with something over there, a ghost. I don't know. There was nothing there that I could see, but he was just activated by something in that direction. It reminded me of when your dog is just triggered by like a tiny sound you can't hear and it stares into the distance for like 2 minutes. Trico did shit like this all the time.
Exactly.
Do you see a big scary butterfly, buddy? Between that and parts where he wouldn't eat because, oh, I couldn't possibly stick my neck out that far for a barrel, he absolutely felt real. Convenient? No. Real?
Not at all.
Startlingly. Once I realized that communicating with this big oaf was anything but automatic, it made other moments shine beautifully. My biggest gripe playing this early on was that it was often ridiculously unclear what to do, which led me to just get frustrated and go to a walkthrough. I see the solution and then go, that's what they want me to do? But almost every puzzle is set up this fuzzy, and at some point, after I started grasping what Trico was scared of, what he tended to do in certain situations, how I could work together with him, I stopped needing the walkthrough near as much. And when I did allow myself to try and figure out the puzzle and succeeded, it was joyous. I laughed multiple times at how gratifying the solution was because it was exciting on 2 levels. On one hand, I had to have an idea like you do in most video game puzzles, but on the other, I had to trust that Trico knew what I was trying to do. Like there was one where we were stuck in this little arena and the only opening was way above us and it was only big enough for me to fit through. I look around and find this chariot. Trico watches me pull it out and then a light bulb turns on. Wait.
Oh, to have him launch you up?
But fuck it. Trico, listen to me. Hang on, are we lined up right? Wait a minute, let me look. Okay. Trico, listen to me, buddy. I really, could you just absolutely, yes,
oh my God.
Yes, oh my God.
Oh my God.
What the fuck, it worked.
Yo.
There were so many moments like this, and they were all embellished by the fact that I had no clue if he knew what I needed him to do until the exact moment he actually did it. In those moments, when it all came together, it truly felt like we understood each other. I weirdly felt pride in him, which is something I never get for those NPCs that just do what you ask when you hit a button. It's
I see. Okay. Well, this is yet another aspect of the whole system, right? Because these moments wouldn't feel as incredible or as amazing if we didn't have the moments where there was just absolute failure and Trico would just not listen to you at all. Oh my God, it seems like such a hard balance, and you got to really put a lot of trust in the player to continue playing the game despite those frustrations in order to experience moments like these. But once they do, like, it's incredible.
Extremely risky to put puzzles like this in a game because it requires that the player do a ton of experimentation and accept that it may take a long time to get on the same page as an AI as moody as Trico, but the payoff is absolutely delightful.
Exactly.
Between that and little things like Trico grasping that it took me forever to climb up his back and then just completely out of the blue deciding to throw me back there to make my life easier, I realized that
thank
it wasn't
you.
just me who knew how he ticked, but also that he knew how I ticked. Spending time and developing the patience to coordinate with Trico was not the most fun I've ever had, but The Last Guardian is by far the only game to make me feel like a fictional character and I truly understood one another. Stories that shine a light on how bizarre it is that attacking is the #1 verb in video games are certainly necessary. Don't get me wrong, there is beauty and thrill in the heat of battle for a just cause in a game or in a spirited competition, but I personally feel that stories like NieR are a humbling reminder to all of us that in reality, conflict can and should be resolved in other ways. But I also think we need more games that emphasize not just that killing is bad, but also that communication and seeking to genuinely understand others, while sometimes unnerving, while sometimes inconvenient, is supremely fulfilling.
I think a lot of games try to do that, and it just kind of falls flat, unfortunately. Like, it lacks that depth and understanding that a game like NieR had. It's difficult for me to describe the exact differences. Like, I can't come up with an exact game off the top of my head. I just remember, like, playing certain games that had similar themes that did not leave a lasting impact like what NieR Replicant was able to achieve. Actually, give me a second. I'm sure somebody in the comments had a similar thought to me. Here we go. Thomas Clark, thank you so much for leaving this comment. One thing that I love about NieR is that while the new context adds tragedy, the game doesn't just turn around and go, look, you're the real monster here. Yeah, okay, exactly. It asks you to reflect on your actions. I've had several experiences where a game tries to do that, and I end up feeling indignant, especially when the game creates a scenario where your only choice is to do the stupid evil thing to progress only to immediately condemn you for it. Yes. Okay, thank you for putting my thoughts into words. It's because it feels forced, and you are meant to feel bad, but you're just kind of don't actually feel bad because ultimately you realize that it's a video game and that the video game creators made you do this in order to make you feel bad. However, in NieR, you understand both sides, well, once you do multiple playthroughs, and it's such a situation, like, I can understand them all, and I feel so sad that this is what I've done, but like there's no other way. At least for NieR, because he was unable to understand what was going on and the implications of his actions. It's a horrible thing, but we believe that we were in the right because we were going to save our sister. And in doing so, we hurt so many people in order to achieve that.
In a 2021 interview shortly after the Replicant remake was released, Yoko Taro said, "I have failed before at changing the world through games, and I continue to fail now, but I still believe in the potential that lies within games, and I dream that someone new and young will break through for us."
I haven't talked about this yet at all. Video games as a medium, it's such an incredible tool for storytelling that you don't really realize, or well, I never fully appreciated how much it could affect you until I played the NieR series. And you might say that Yoko Taro is a little bit crazy for saying something like this, but after playing his games, I feel like that's actually something that could happen. Like a video game that's able to change everyone's perspective on the something in the world. Like, it's not forcing people to change their ways or telling them that what they're doing is wrong. It's inspiring them to do something else or to change themselves that can really change the world. And video games can certainly do that. It can make you feel so many things and so many emotions that you never knew you had. like many times during my playthrough, I was unable to describe what I was feeling at the moment because there was such a strange mixture of things going on. I genuinely hope that there are other creators out there who are able to reach such heights and able to draw out those kind of emotions from me in the future, so I can enjoy their video games and have an existential crisis like I always do.
To me, it's clear that Replicant is not just a tale about conflict, but the comforting grace of seeking to hear and be heard in spite of it, and the tragic sting of being too scared or angry to try. And like Yoko,
and beauty.
I also dream that games can inspire change. I dream about another game like The Last Guardian. I dream about a game that not only warns about the tragedy of not seeking to understand another, but that celebrates the majesty of seeking and finding. Hey you, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see here and want to support the show, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, share, comment. I'm
definitely
sure
go and support Daryl.
And if
that
you
was
really
incredible. I've always enjoyed Daryl's stuff, so I guess that was to be expected. But of course, once again, please go and support Daryl. There are a ton of other videos on his channel like this, and if you enjoyed this, I'm sure you'll enjoy all of them. But yeah, that brought out some memories that I had kind of buried in the past. But, you know, there were some happy, some not so happy. But regardless of whether they were positive or negative emotions, I'm glad that I was able to experience a little bit of that again. The things that I experienced on my first time playing Replicant. And of course, if you guys have any particular games or stories that really affected you in a similar way to how the games and movies here were presented, then feel free to let me and other people know in the comments. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.